Marcus thought he was just grilling burgers for his daughter's birthday when Karen's shrill voice pierced the afternoon air. "I'm calling the police." But what Karen didn't know was that Marcus wasn't just any neighbor, he was the one person who could destroy everything she'd built. 9 minutes. That's all it took for her smugness to crumble, her power to evaporate, and her entire HOA empire to come crashing down. Some battles you pick. Others pick you. And this one would change everything. The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid mixed with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine as Marcus Rodriguez adjusted the grill grates one final time. Saturday afternoon sunlight filtered through the oak trees lining Willowbrook Circle, casting dancing shadows across his meticulously maintained backyard. Today was supposed to be perfect, his daughter Sophia's 8th birthday party, complete with her favorite chocolate cake cooling on the kitchen counter and a dozen of her friends due to arrive within the hour. "Dad, is it ready yet?" Sophia bounced on her toes beside him, her dark curls catching the light as she peered at the still-cold grill. "Almost, Mija. Just getting the coals started." Marcus smiled, ruffling her hair. After 18 months of weekend custody battles and his ex-wife's constant criticism, he was determined to make this day special. No drama, no complications, just a father celebrating his little girl. The charcoal chimney began to glow orange at the bottom, and Marcus felt that familiar satisfaction of a job well done. Everything was planned to perfection, the burgers seasoned and ready, the decorations hung, even the playlist of Sophia's favorite songs queued up on his phone. He'd taken the day off from his job as a building inspector for the city, cleared his schedule, and "Excuse me." The voice cut through the peaceful afternoon like a buzzsaw. Marcus looked up to see Karen Whitmore striding across his lawn, her blonde hair pulled back in a severe bun, designer sunglasses perched atop her head like a crown. She wore her standard uniform, crisp white blouse, pressed khakis, and the gold HOA president badge pinned prominently to her chest. "Yes?" Marcus straightened, instinctively positioning himself between Karen and Sophia. "This is completely unacceptable." Karen gestured dramatically at the grill, her voice rising with each word. "You're in direct violation of HOA Covenant 4.7b. regarding outdoor cooking apparatus placement and Covenant 6.2a concerning noise disturbances during quiet hours." Marcus blinked. Quiet hours? It's 2 in the afternoon on a Saturday. Weekend quiet hours are clearly defined as any time that might disturb the peaceful enjoyment of neighboring properties. Karen pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "I'm documenting this violation for the board meeting Monday. Karen, it's my daughter's birthday party. I'm just grilling some burgers. I don't care if it's Christmas morning, Marcus. Rules are rules." Her lips curled into a thin smile. "Maybe if you'd bothered to attend any HOA meetings in the past year, you'd know that." Sophia tugged at Marcus's sleeve. "Dad, who is she? Why is she angry?" Before Marcus could answer, Karen's attention snapped to the little girl. "And another thing, I see you've set up tables and chairs without proper permits. Any gathering of more than 6 people requires advance approval from the Architectural Review Committee." Heat flared in Marcus's chest. "She's 8 years old, Karen. It's a children's birthday party. The covenants don't make exceptions for age." Karen's voice carried the smug satisfaction of someone who'd found a loophole and intended to exploit it. "I'm sorry, but this entire event is in violation of multiple HOA regulations. You'll need to shut it down immediately." Marcus felt his jaw clench. For 2 years, he'd watched Karen terrorize their quiet neighborhood with her petty power trips. She'd fined the elderly Johnsons for leaving their garbage cans out 15 minutes past collection time. She'd forced the Patels to repaint their front door 3 times because the shade of blue was insufficiently compliant with approved color schemes. She'd even tried to ban children from playing in the common areas because their laughter was disruptive to property values. But this was his daughter's birthday. "Karen, I'm asking you nicely to let this go. Just this once." "Absolutely not." She held up her phone, camera pointed at the grill. "I'm documenting everything. The illegal placement of cooking equipment, the unpermitted gathering, the noise violations. What noise violations? Marcus's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. I haven't even started cooking yet. Your raised voice is disturbing the peace. Karen's smile widened. And I can see you are becoming agitated. Perhaps we should discuss this with law enforcement. Present. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. After everything he'd been through, the custody battle, the divorce, the constant scrutiny from his ex-wife's lawyers, the last thing he needed was police involvement at his daughter's birthday party. Dad. Sophia's voice was small, confused. Are we in trouble? Marcus looked down at his daughter's worried face and felt something cold settle in his stomach. This wasn't about HOA regulations or property values. This was about power, control, and Karen's need to dominate everyone around. Huh. No, sweetheart. We are not in trouble. He kept his voice steady, gentle. Why don't you go inside and wash your hands? We'll be ready to cook soon. Sophia hesitated, glancing between her father and the angry woman who'd invaded their perfect day. Finally, she nodded and skipped toward the house, but Marcus caught her looking back with worried eyes. The moment Sophia was out of earshot, Marcus turned back to Karen. What do you want? I want compliance with the covenants, conditions, and restrictions that every homeowner in this community agreed to follow. Karen's voice carried the rehearsed tone of someone who'd given this speech before. I want people to understand that rules matter, that order matters, and that we can't just ignore regulations because they are inconvenient. This isn't about regulations, Karen. This is about you needing to control everything and everyone around you. Her eyes flashed dangerously. I am the duly elected president of the Willowbrook Circle Homeowners Association. I have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to be a decent human being. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. There are 12 kids coming to this party. 12 children who just want to eat some burgers and celebrate with their friend. Are you really going to destroy that over some arbitrary rule about grill placement? For a moment, something flickered in Karen's expression, doubt, perhaps, or the ghost of empathy. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The rules exist for a reason, Marcus. Property values, community standards, quality of life, these things matter. If I make exceptions for you, where does it end? Next week, someone else will want to ignore the covenants. Then someone else. Before you know it, this entire neighborhood becomes a free-for-all. It's a birthday party, not anarchy. It's the principle. Karen's voice hardened. And since you refuse to cooperate voluntarily, I'm calling the police. Marcus felt his world tilt. You're calling the cops? On a child's birthday party? I'm calling them on multiple HOA violations and your increasingly aggressive behavior. Karen's fingers moved across her phone screen. Hello, 911. I need to report a disturbance at 1247 Willowbrook Circle. The resident is becoming hostile and refusing to comply with legal community regulations. Marcus stared at her in disbelief. Around them, the perfect afternoon continued, birds singing, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves, the distant sound of children playing in other yards. But here, in his backyard, everything was falling apart. Karen, hang up the phone. Sir, I need you to step back, Karen said loudly, clearly performing for the dispatcher. Yes, he's becoming more agitated. I'm concerned for my safety. I'm not. Marcus stopped himself, recognizing the trap. Anything he said now would be twisted, used against him. Instead, he pulled out his own phone and began recording. What are you doing? Karen's performance faltered slightly. Same thing you are. Documenting everything. Marcus kept his voice level, professional. For the record, I'm Marcus Rodriguez, it's 2:17 p.m. on Saturday, and I'm recording this interaction with Karen Whitmore, HOA president, who has called the police on my daughter's 8th birthday party. You can't record me without permission. Actually, I can. Texas is a one-party consent state. Marcus continued recording as Karen's face reddened. Would you like to explain to the camera why you're disrupting a children's birthday party? Before Karen could respond, a police cruiser turned the corner onto Willowbrook Circle. Marcus felt his stomach drop as he watched it approach, thinking of Sophia inside the house, probably watching from the window, wondering why her special day had gone so wrong. The cruiser pulled into his driveway and Officer Janet Chen stepped out, a compact woman with kind eyes and 20 years of experience written in the patient set of her shoulders. Marcus recognized her from the community policing meetings he'd attended in his professional capacity. "Afternoon, folks. I'm Officer Chen. I understand there's some kind of disturbance." Karen immediately launched into her complaint, her voice rising with righteous indignation. "Officer, this man is in violation of multiple HOA covenants and became aggressive when I attempted to address the situation. He's refusing to comply with legal community regulations and has been verbally threatening. Office. The birthday party was everything Marcus had dreamed it would be. Sophia's friends devoured the hamburgers with the enthusiasm only 8-year-olds could muster, their faces smeared with ketchup and pure joy. The chocolate cake disappeared in minutes, leaving only crumbs and satisfied giggles. As the afternoon sun began to sink toward the horizon, parents arrived to collect their children, each one thanking Marcus for a wonderful time. Best party ever, Dad. Sophia threw her arms around his waist as the last guest departed. Can we do it again next week? Marcus laughed, pulling her close. How about we wait until next year, Mija? As they cleaned up the backyard together, Marcus caught himself glancing toward Karen's house. The windows remained dark, no sign of movement behind the drawn curtains. Part of him wondered if she'd taken his advice and hired a lawyer. A larger part of him didn't care. The dishes were washed, the decorations put away, and Sophia was finally tucked into bed with her new birthday books when Marcus's phone rang. The caller ID showed Detective Lisa Park's number. Mr. Rodriguez. I hope I'm not calling too late. Not at all, Detective. What can I do for you? We have a situation. About an hour ago, Karen Whitmore walked into the downtown precinct and demanded to speak with the FBI. She's claiming that you threatened her and that she has information about city corruption. Marcus felt his stomach drop. City corruption. She's alleging that you've been using your position as a building inspector to target the HOA, that you've been fabricating violations to get revenge for personal disputes. Detective Park's voice carried a note of concern. She's also claiming that you've been taking bribes from developers in exchange for favorable inspections. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. That's completely false. I believe you, Mr. Rodriguez. But she's making these allegations very publicly, and she's demanding a full investigation. The FBI is taking it seriously enough to schedule a meeting for Monday morning. Marcus sank into his kitchen chair, his mind racing. She's trying to destroy my career before we can expose the HOA. That's exactly what she's doing. And she's not done yet. What do you mean? 20 minutes ago, she called Channel 7 News. They are running a story tomorrow about alleged corruption in the city inspector's office. Your name is mentioned specifically. Marcus closed his eyes. Detective, I need you to know that everything I told her today is true. The HOA has been operating illegally for decades. I have all the documentation, I know. And we are going to prove it. But she's gotten ahead of us, and now we are playing defense instead of offense. Through his kitchen window, Marcus could see lights coming on in Karen's house. She was home. Probably preparing for war. What do you need from me? He asked. Everything. Every document, every piece of evidence, every interaction you've had with the HOA. We need to build an airtight case before Monday, or this whole thing could blow up in our faces. I'll have everything ready by tomorrow morning. There's one more thing, Mr. Rodriguez. You should know that Karen isn't working alone anymore. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? She's hired Richard Castellanos. The name hit Marcus like a sledgehammer. Richard Castellanos was Austin's most notorious criminal defense attorney, the man who'd gotten 3 city council members acquitted on corruption charges and made the district attorney's office look like amateurs in the process. How can she afford Castellanos? That's an excellent question. His retainer alone is more than most people make in a year. Either she has access to serious money or someone else is bankrolling her defense. Marcus's mind raced. The HOA account. The $340,000. Could be. Or it could be something else entirely. Either way, she's playing hardball now. After hanging up, Marcus sat in his darkened kitchen and tried to process what was happening. 12 hours ago, he'd been grilling burgers for his daughter's birthday party. Now he was at the center of a corruption investigation that could destroy his career, his reputation, and his ability to provide for Sophia. His phone buzzed with a text from his ex-wife, heard about the new story. We need to talk about Sophia's custody arrangement. Marcus stared at the message, feeling the walls closing in around him. Jennifer had been looking for any excuse to limit his time with Sophia, and a corruption scandal would be the perfect ammunition. He was about to reply when his doorbell rang. Through the peephole, he could see a young woman with a press badge and a camera crew behind her. Mr. Rodriguez. I'm Jessica Martinez from Channel 7 News. We'd like to ask you a few questions about the allegations. Marcus didn't open the door. Instead, he closed all the curtains and turned off the lights. The reporters stayed for another 20 minutes, their camera lights periodically flashing through the windows, before finally giving up and leaving. As he sat in his darkened living room, Marcus's phone continued to buzz with calls from reporters, colleagues, and neighbors. He ignored them all, focusing instead on the documents spread across his coffee table: building permits, incorporation papers, financial records, and correspondence that would prove the HOA's illegal operations. At 11:47 p.m., his phone rang again. This time it was his supervisor, Robert Martinez. Marcus, I just got off the phone with the city manager. We need to talk. Bob, I can explain everything, not over the phone. Meet me at the office tomorrow morning at 7. And Marcus? Don't talk to anyone until then. No reporters, no neighbors, no one. What about the HOA investigation? What investigation? As far as I know, you've been conducting an authorized research into neighborhood associations on city time. That's a serious problem. Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. Bob, you know me. You know I wouldn't. I know what I'm hearing from the news, from the city manager, and from a very expensive lawyer who's threatening to sue the city for harassment. Tomorrow morning, Marcus. 7 a.m. The line went dead. Marcus sat in the darkness, surrounded by evidence of crimes that might never see a courtroom, facing accusations that could destroy everything he'd worked for. Outside, Willowbrook Circle was quiet and peaceful, giving no hint of the storm that was building. At 12:15 a.m., his phone rang one more time. The caller ID showed Karen Whitmore's number. Against his better judgment, Marcus answered. Hello, Karen. Having trouble sleeping? Her voice was different now, cold, calculated, stripped of its earlier panic. Imagine you are. What do you want? I want you to understand something, Marcus. You thought you were so clever, so superior with your little revelation about the HOA. But you forgot something important. Which is, I've been fighting battles like this for 30 years. I know how to win. Marcus could hear the satisfaction in her voice, the confidence of someone who believed they held all the cards. By the time I'm done with you, Karen continued, you'll lose your job, your reputation, your credibility, and probably your daughter. The HOA will survive because I'll make sure everyone believes you fabricated the evidence out of spite. The evidence is real, Karen. You can't change that. Evidence is only as good as the person presenting it. And you? You're about to become a disgraced city employee with an axe to grind. Who's going to believe you then? Marcus felt a cold fury building in his chest. You're destroying innocent people's lives to protect your own crimes. I'm protecting my community from a corrupt city official who thinks he can abuse his power to settle personal scores. Karen's voice carried the ring of someone who'd rehearsed this speech. That's the story, Marcus. That's what everyone will believe. The FBI will find themselves investigating allegations of city corruption instead of HOA violations. Funny how that works, isn't it? The line went dead. Marcus sat in his dark living room, staring at the phone in his hand. Karen had outmaneuvered him completely, turning his revelation into a weapon against him. She transformed herself from a criminal into a victim, and him from a whistleblower into a corrupt official. But as he sat there in the darkness, surrounded by evidence and accusations, Marcus began to think about something Karen had said earlier. Something about Margaret Steinberg, the head of the HOA board. He pulled out his laptop and began searching through city records, looking for any mention of Margaret Steinberg. What he found made his blood run cold. Margaret Steinberg wasn't just the head of the HOA board. She was also the wife of Judge Harold Steinberg, who'd been presiding over civil cases in Travis County for the past 15 years, including several cases involving HOA disputes, including the case that had established the legal precedent allowing HOAs to foreclose on properties for unpaid fees. Marcus's hands shook as he dug deeper into the records. Harold Steinberg had ruled in favor of HOA foreclosures in 17 cases over the past 5 years. Cases that had generated millions in legal fees, property seizures, and forced sales. And in every single case, the plaintiff had been represented by the same law firm, Castellanos, Price and Associates. The same firm that was now representing Karen Whitmore. Marcus stared at his laptop screen, the pieces falling into place like a puzzle he'd been trying to solve for months. The Willowbrook Circle HOA wasn't just operating illegally, it was part of a larger network of fraudulent homeowner associations being used to seize properties and generate profits for lawyers and judges. And Karen Whitmore wasn't just the president of a rogue HOA. She was a key P. Marcus didn't sleep. He spent the hours until dawn sitting in Sophia's doorway, watching her peaceful face and listening for any sound that might indicate danger. At 5:30 a.m., when the first hints of sunlight crept through her bedroom window, he finally moved. He had 2 hours before his meeting with Robert Martinez. 2 hours to set everything in motion. The first call went to his brother Miguel, a sergeant in the Austin Police Department's game unit. Miguel answered on the second ring, his voice groggy with sleep. "Marcus. What's wrong? I need you to come to my house. Now. And bring backup." "What kind of backup?" "The kind that carries guns and doesn't ask questions." Miguel's voice sharpened. "Immediately." "What's going on?" "Someone threatened Sophia last night. They broke into my house, Miguel. They know where she sleeps. I'm on my way. Don't do anything stupid before I get there." The second call went to his ex-wife Jennifer, who answered with the irritated tone of someone who'd been expecting bad news. "Marcus, I saw the news report. We need to, Jennifer, I need you to pick up Sophia. Right now. It's 6 in the morning. She's sleeping. Wake her up. Pack a bag. Take her to your mother's house in San Antonio and don't tell anyone where you're going." Something in his voice must have gotten through to her because her tone changed immediately. "Marcus, you're scaring me. What's happening? People are threatening our daughter to get to me. I need her safe while I handle this." "Handle what?" "The news said you were taking bribes. The news is wrong. But the people who want everyone to believe it are very dangerous, and they are not above hurting children to get what they want." Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. "How dangerous?" "Dangerous. Enough that I'm calling in favors from cops I've known for 20 years. Dangerous enough that I need you to disappear for a few days." "Okay. I'll be there in 30 minutes. The third call was the most important one. Marcus dialed a number he'd memorized but never used, a contact from his days investigating construction fraud cases. "Rodriguez. Jesus, it's not even 6 a.m. Tommy, I need a favor. A big one." Tommy Nguyen had been an investigative journalist for the Austin American-Statesman for 15 years before becoming a freelancer specializing in corruption cases. He'd broken the story that brought down 2 city councilmen and exposed a kickback scheme in the planning department. "What kind of favor?" "The kind that wins Pulitzer Prizes and destroys criminal conspiracies." "I'm listening. How would you like to expose a network of corrupt judges, lawyers, and fake HOAs that have been stealing millions in property from Austin residents?" I'd like that very much. What's the catch? The catch is that we have about 6 hours before they destroy all the evidence and probably frame me for crimes I didn't commit. Meet me at the Thunderbird Coffee on Manor Road in 1 hour. Bring everything you have. By the time Miguel arrived with 2 patrol units and a detective, Marcus had already packed Sophia's emergency bag and printed copies of every document in his investigation. His daughter was still sleeping, blissfully unaware that her world was about to change. Talk to me, Miguel said, his hand resting on his service weapon as he scanned the house. Marcus told him everything: the HOA investigation, Karen's counterattack, the midnight visit from Castellanos and his associates. Miguel's expression grew darker with each revelation. You should have called me last night. I was trying to protect Sophia. If I'd involved the police, they might have escalated. They escalated anyway, hermano. They just did it quietly. Jennifer arrived 20 minutes later, her face pale with worry. She took one look at the police cars in the driveway and immediately understood the seriousness of the situation. Sophia, Marcus said gently, kneeling beside his daughter's bed. You're going to go stay with Grandma Elena for a few days. Sophia rubbed her eyes, confused. Why? Is it because of the angry lady from yesterday? Marcus felt his heart break a little. It's because Daddy has some work to do, and I want you to be safe while I do it. Are you in trouble? No, Mija. But there are some bad people who want everyone to think I am, and I need to prove they are wrong. Sophia hugged him tightly. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world. After Jennifer and Sophia left, escorted by one of Miguel's patrol units, Marcus sat down with his brother and Detective Sarah Walsh to plan their next move. This conspiracy you're talking about, Detective Walsh said, reviewing the documents, it's bigger than just the HOA. You're alleging that Judge Steinberg has been ruling in favor of fraudulent foreclosures. 17 cases in 5 years, all represented by the same law firm. The coincidence is statistically impossible. Even if you're right, proving judicial corruption is incredibly difficult. Judges have broad discretion in their rulings, which is why we need to catch them in the act. Miguel looked up from the financial records. What do you mean? Karen Whitmore is going to try to destroy me at my meeting with Robert Martinez this morning. She's going to present fabricated evidence of my alleged corruption, probably backed up by testimony from Castellanos. So we are going to let her do it. And we are going to record everything. Detective Walsh frowned. Recording a private meeting could be problematic legally. It's not going to be a private meeting. I'm going to insist that a representative from Internal Affairs be present. City policy requires it for any corruption investigation. And you think they'll admit to fabricating evidence with IA in the room? Marcus smiled grimly. I think they are arrogant enough to believe they can manipulate anyone. Karen Whitmore has been getting away with criminal behavior for so long that she thinks she's untouchable. It's a huge risk, Miguel said. If this backfires, you lose everything. I've already lost everything. My reputation, my career, my daughter's safety, it's all gone unless I can prove the truth. At 8:30 a.m., Marcus walked into the city building for what might be his last day as a municipal employee. He'd spent the morning with Tommy Nguyen, turning over copies of all his evidence and explaining the connections between the HOA fraud and the judicial corruption. This is incredible, Tommy had said, photographing documents with the intensity of a man who'd found buried treasure. If even half of this is true, it's the biggest corruption scandal in Austin history. It's all true. The question is whether we can prove it before they destroy the evidence. Now, as Marcus rode the elevator to the 3rd floor, he thought about Sophia, safe in San Antonio with her grandmother, and about the recording device Detective Walsh had given him. The conversation with his supervisor was about to be the most important performance of his life. Robert Martinez was waiting in his office, along with Internal Affairs investigator Linda Chen and, to Marcus's surprise, Karen Whitmore and Richard Castellanos. Marcus, thank you for coming in, Martinez said, his tone formal and uncomfortable. I think you know why we're here. I have some idea, Marcus replied, taking the chair across from his supervisor's desk. Though I'm surprised to see private citizens at what should be an internal personnel matter. Castellano spoke up, his voice carrying the smooth confidence of a man accustomed to controlling conversations. Mrs. Whitmore has some serious allegations about your conduct, Mr. Rodriguez. We felt it was important to present them directly. I'm sure you did. Karen leaned forward, her expression a careful mask of concerned citizenship. Marcus, I want you to know that this gives me no pleasure. But the integrity of our community standards is too important to ignore. What exactly are you alleging, Mrs. Whitmore? That you've been using your position as a city inspector to retaliate against the HOA for legitimate enforcement actions. That you've fabricated violations and falsified records to support your personal vendetta. Marcus looked at Internal Affairs Investigator Chen. And you're taking these allegations seriously. We have to investigate any claims of official misconduct. Chen replied. Do you have a response to these allegations? I do. But first, I'd like to ask Mrs. Whitmore a few questions. Castellanos held up a hand. My client isn't here to be interrogated, your client is making serious allegations about a city employee. I think I have a right to understand the basis for those allegations. Martinez nodded reluctantly. Go ahead, Marcus. But keep it brief. Marcus looked directly at Karen. Mrs. Whitmore, when was the Willowbrook Circle HOA legally incorporated? 1987, when the neighborhood was developed. And who handled the incorporation? The original developer, Sunrise Properties, which filed for bankruptcy in 1994. Karen's confidence faltered slightly. Yes, I believe so. And when Sunrise Properties went bankrupt, who assumed legal responsibility for the HOA? The homeowners, naturally. We formed a board and, without proper legal authorization from the state. Castellanos started to object, but Marcus continued. Mrs. Whitmore, did you know that collecting fees under false pretenses is a felony? Or that the HOA you've been running for decades has never been legally authorized to exist? Karen's face went pale. That's not true. We've been operating illegally. Taking money from residents for services you had no legal right to provide. Imposing fines and fees without authority. In some cases, foreclosing on properties and selling them to generate profits for your associates. This is absurd, Castellanos interjected. Mr. Rodriguez is clearly fabricating these allegations to deflect from his own misconduct, like the misconduct that. The story hit the front page of the Austin American-Statesman at 5:47 a.m. on Tuesday morning, and by 6:15 a.m., Marcus's phone was ringing off the hook. The headline screamed across the top of the page in bold letters, judges, lawyers, and fake HOAs, how a criminal network stole millions from Austin homeowners. Tommy Nguyen had outdone himself. The article was a masterpiece of investigative journalism, complete with financial charts, property records, and a detailed timeline showing how the conspiracy had operated for over 2 decades. But it was the accompanying sidebar that made Marcus smile. Building inspector risks career to expose corruption, faces retaliation for protecting neighbors. Dad. Sophia's voice came through the phone, small and worried. Grandma Elena says people are talking about you on TV. Marcus was sitting in Detective Walsh's office, watching the local news coverage on her computer while FBI agents processed evidence in the background. It's okay, Mija. They are saying good things about your daddy. Are you really a hero like Grandma says? Marcus looked at the screen, where Channel 7 was running a correction to their previous story. The anchor looked appropriately embarrassed as she explained that new evidence has revealed that Building Inspector Marcus Rodriguez was actually investigating criminal activity, not participating in it. I'm just someone who did the right thing, sweetheart. Nothing more. When can I come home? Soon. Very soon. After hanging up, Marcus turned to Detective Walsh, who was reviewing arrest warrants with FBI Special Agent Rachel Kim. The federal involvement had transformed the investigation from a local corruption case into something much larger. Judge. Steinberg is refusing to recuse himself from any pending HOA cases, Agent Kim said, shaking her head. He's claiming the allegations are baseless and demanding that the investigation be dropped. What about Margaret Steinberg? Lawyered up. Immediately. Her attorney is claiming she had no knowledge of any illegal activities and was simply fulfilling her duties as HOA board president. Marcus laughed bitterly. 17 favorable rulings for her husband, millions in illegal property seizures. And she had no idea. People have gotten away with more on less evidence, Detective Walsh said. The challenge is proving intent and coordination. Defense attorneys are very good at creating reasonable doubt. What about the HOA accounts? The money trail. Agent Kim pulled up a financial document on her laptop. That's where things get interesting. We've frozen the Willowbrook Circle account, but we are finding connections to dozens of other HOA accounts. Across Austin. It's not just one neighborhood, it's a network. Marcus felt his stomach drop. How many neighborhoods? So far? 43. And that's just in Travis County. We are seeing similar patterns in Williamson County, Hayes County, even as far as San Antonio. Jesus. How much money are we talking about? Conservatively, $80 million. But it's not just the money, Mr. Rodriguez. It's the properties. We are finding cases where people lost their homes over manufactured violations, forged documents, and illegal foreclosure proceedings. The weight of it hit Marcus like a physical blow. Dozens of neighborhoods, hundreds of families, millions of dollars in theft disguised as community governance. Karen Whitmore hadn't been running a rogue HOA, she'd been part of a statewide criminal enterprise. There's something else, Agent Kim continued. We searched Karen Whitmore's house this morning pursuant to the arrest warrant. We found some very interesting documents. She handed Marcus a manila folder. Inside were printouts of emails, financial records, and what appeared to be a membership roster for something called the Texas Community Standards Association. What is this? It's essentially a trade organization for HOA board members. They meet quarterly, share best practices, and coordinate on legislation. Nothing illegal about that, except. Marcus flipped through the pages, his eyes widening as he recognized names. These are all the HOA presidents from the fraudulent associations. Every single one. And look at this. Agent Kim pointed to a financial statement showing membership dues, conference fees, and what was euphemistically labeled operational expenses. The numbers were staggering. They've been running training seminars on how to maximize fee collection, how to identify vulnerable properties for foreclosure, and how to work with cooperative legal professionals to expedite proceedings. It's a how-to guide for stealing houses. Exactly. And it gets worse. Agent Kim pulled up another document on her laptop, a schedule of upcoming conferences and training sessions. They have a major conference planned for this weekend. Austin Convention Center. 500 attendees from across Texas. Marcus stared at the screen. They are still operating. The leadership probably assumes that Karen and Castellanos were isolated cases. They don't know how much we've uncovered. So what do we do? Detective Walsh smiled grimly. We crashed their party. By Thursday afternoon, the scope of the investigation had expanded beyond anything Marcus could have imagined. The FBI had opened cases in 6 counties, the Texas Attorney General's office had launched a statewide investigation, and the IRS was examining tax filings for dozens of supposedly non-profit HOAs. Marcus sat in a conference room at the federal building, surrounded by agents, prosecutors, and boxes of evidence that seemed to multiply every hour. On the wall, a whiteboard showed the organizational chart of what investigators were now calling the largest property theft scheme in Texas history. Mr. Rodriguez, U.S. Attorney David Chen said, "We need to discuss your role in the upcoming operation." Marcus looked up from the financial records he'd been reviewing. What kind of role? The kind where you wear a wire and attend the Texas Community Standards Association conference as our inside man. The room fell silent. Marcus looked around at the assembled law enforcement officials, all of whom were watching him expectantly. You want me to go undercover? Not exactly undercover, Agent Kim clarified. We want you to go as yourself, Marcus Rodriguez, the building inspector who's been investigating HOA violations. Based on the news coverage, they probably think you're one of them now. One of them. A corrupt official willing to work with the system instead of against it. They'll want to recruit you, bring you into the fold. And when they do, we'll have them on tape confessing to everything, U.S. Attorney Chen finished. Marcus thought about Sophia, safe in San Antonio but asking every day when she could come home. He thought about the families who'd lost their houses to this conspiracy. The elderly couples forced from homes they'd lived in for decades, the young families bankrupted by manufactured violations. What exactly would I have to do? Agent Kim pulled out a thick folder. According to their conference schedule, there's a special session on Friday afternoon called Working with Municipal Partners. It's invitation only for HOA board members who want to learn how to cultivate cooperative relationships with city officials. In other words, how to corrupt building inspectors. Exactly. We think they'll see you as the perfect candidate, someone who's already been publicly accused of corruption and might be willing to make it official. And you want me to let them think they're recruiting me? We want you to be so enthusiastic about joining their operation that they tell you everything. How the system works, who's involved, how much money changes hands, and most importantly, who's running the whole thing. Marcus studied the conference schedule, noting the names of speakers and session leaders. Many of them he recognized from the HOA cases he'd been investigating, but there were new names too, lawyers, judges, and what appeared to be state legislators. This goes all the way to the state house, doesn't it? U.S. Attorney Chen nodded grimly. We think so. Some of the legislation that's been passed in recent years, making it easier for HOAs to foreclose, reducing oversight requirements, limiting homeowner appeals, it didn't happen by accident. How high does it go? We don't know yet. But we're going to find out. Marcus closed the folder and looked around the room. 2 weeks ago, he'd been grilling burgers for his daughter's birthday party. Now he was being asked to help bring down a statewide corruption network that had stolen millions of dollars from Texas families. If I do this, what guarantee do I have that my daughter will be safe? Full federal protection, Agent Kim said immediately. Round-the-clock surveillance on Sophia and your ex-wife. Safe house if necessary. We take threats against family members very seriously. And my job? The city has already issued a public statement clearing you of all allegations. Your supervisor wants you back as soon as this is over. Marcus thought about Karen Whitmore, sitting in a federal holding cell, probably still convinced that her connections would save her. He thought about Judge Steinberg, still refusing to recuse himself from cases involving his wife's criminal enterprise. He thought about all the HOA board members who'd stolen their neighbors' homes and convinced themselves they were protecting property values. When do we start? Friday morning dawned gray and drizzly, matching Marcus's mood as he prepared for the most important performance of his life. The wire was invisible beneath his shirt, and the backup team would be stationed throughout the convention center, but he'd never felt more alone. Remember, Agent Kim said as they sat in the surveillance van outside the Austin Convention Center, your goal is to get them to Inc.